Good morning, good evening, and everywhere in between. It's your daily dose of winning. How's everyone this fine Sunday morning? So, something's been on my mind a lot lately. You noticed I haven't posted videos in a couple of days. I'm going through a lot of mental, emotional, and spiritual issues. Not issues, just thoughts, developments, realizations. And one thing that I have thought a lot about was when I was a kid. There was this one framed picture that I can always remember in my house. No matter what house I was in a lot of them. I always remember this one, and it was of footsteps in the sand. And it was a poem called Footprints. And with today's age and era of technology, easily recreated, easily found on the internet. But I reread it. I found it and reread it. And I remember it. I remember, reading it as a kid, always there. But I never really took stock of it as a kid, you know what I mean? Growing up, it's just some stuff that mom and dad have on the walls. We go to church on Sundays. My family was heavy into ministry, the church and whatnot. But I remember it, and footprints. One night a man had a dream, and in the sky, his life was flashing before him, all the things that he had been through in life. And across the sky, he had also seen and noticed in these that there were two sets of footprints in the sand. One was his, and one was God's. And when the last scene finally ended, flashed, he looked back and he noticed that sometimes there was only one set of footprints. And that kind of disturbed him, because this was at the lowest points of his life, some of the hardest points of his life, some of the saddest points of his life. And it bothered him. And he said to God, you said if I followed you, you'd never leave me. You'd never go away. You'd always be there for me. So there's only one set of footprints. Why did you leave? Why did you leave me during some of the most troublesome and lowest points in my life, some of the saddest points in my life? Why didn't you protect me? And I don't understand. When I needed you most, you left. And God said, God replied, my precious, precious child, I love you, and I would never leave you. During your times of trial and suffering, when you see only one set of footprints, it was in that time that I carried you. I never really paid attention to that as a kid, I thought it was just some, it's a poem or whatever that's on the wall. Growing up. It's always been there, though. It's always been right here. It's always been in my brain, and I've just been thinking about that a lot lately. We go through seasons in our life. We go through trials in our life. We go through suffering in our life, and we don't understand why. We don't get it. But it's been there the whole time. We just rely on other things to fill that void. And eventually those other things dry up. Because those other things weren't long term. They just weren't. And one thing, though, is perfection isn't a prerequisite. Because none of us will ever be perfect. We are awesome, and we are amazing. And we can tap into that. But remember, when you think that you can't do it, and you think that you've been left behind, and you think you're not good enough, stop judging yourself, and stop putting so much dirt on yourself. Because the one thing there is grace. And there's one thing that there's God. He knows you better than you do. And he still loves you and he still carries you. Just remember that you're awesome and you're amazing. And you are worthy. Until tomorrow, I love you guys. Peace.